So I'm redoing my water cooling system, put all my parts inside the back of the car. There's my old radiator. You can see the gasket on this thermostat was pretty crap and there was a chip there. So that's been replaced today. I mean, that's literally flat. There's like no gasket there whatsoever. Got a new bracket, new radiator. You can see that there was water coming out there. That's where the thermostat goes in. So it was the thermostat that was leaking, and that's the broken thermostat there, which goes underneath the expansion tank. There's a couple of thermostats. Got the airbox out. We got all the pieces in there. I've got my bolts here. So I'm going to go through and put on the thermostat for you guys, and hopefully it might help you if you guys need to work on your own e53 X5 yourself, or m54 engine, or I mean, a lot of the BMWs from this era supposedly, from what I know, are around the same sort of design. This is where the thermostat goes in here, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit, and then we're going to put the water pump pulley. I've already replaced that, as you can see. I'm going to put the water pump pulley on and the belt on, so you're going to see that. And I'm just waiting on that thermostat that I showed you before, and then I'll put the rest in. So I'll put the radiator in, the upper lower hoses, the bracket on the radiator, the expansion tank, plug all this in. The airbox goes in there, attaches here, and feeds into there on top. You got the case on top. There's a clutch fan which goes onto there, and that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to show you how to actually bleed the system. First up, I'm just going to wipe this up a little bit. Then I'm going to put some of this on, rubber grease, to look after the seal of my brand new thermostat, which is the one that I just showed you. I'm going to put that on. It's essentially 4 bolts, so I'll take you down there. So there's this one here, which is your big bolt. It goes through a little housing which holds it in there. That's the solenoid. So pull it out. So that's the solenoid, so it pretty much just goes behind that there. And got that bolt, and then these two you kind of just have to work by feel. You can feel them, and then you put them in. That's job done. Putting new parts on the X5, this is how we do it. These cars really aren't that hard to work on. If you know how to take bolts off, put bolts on, essentially that's all you really need to know. They're really ergonomically designed. This car's 20 years old. It's got 240,000 on it, and she's still going strong. So I've been topping it up for about a year with this leak going, just to hold off the leak until I could afford to do this. It's only really cost me $700 in parts all up. I thought it was going to cost a lot more, that's why I was putting it off. The good guys at Clickable Auto, they're happy to answer any questions and send out parts. They're great. If you're confused, that's Facebook groups, YouTube, a lot of YouTube channels. BMW has also helped me in the past when I didn't know why my battery was draining, and so I went down there and they found out that it was the blower motor resistor, and they just did a quick scan. They found out what it was, took it out, and I just got a new one and reinstalled it. The only other thing you need to know basically is, wait for it to think, these hoses, you just get a flathead screwdriver and you just pop it under this flat bit and you just pop it all the way up, and then once you push it back in, it clicks down. And these little resistor things, they're a push release. So you push it in and then you pull it out to release it. That's pretty much all you need to know. For this job, the tensioner pulley is a 16mm nut, and that's to put the belt on. That's about it. Alright, so I got the new one here, brand spanker. You can see in comparison, the new one's a lot better. If I flip it the other way so it's the exact same. This was all white inside. I have no idea if that's bad or not. I don't know, it's white inside. Yeah, here's a new one. I'll put some rubber grease on around the rubber seal, and then we're going to start installing it. I'm just using a tiny little amount. That obviously needed to be changed. So it's good that you actually do the whole thing anyway. I'm just basically doing it because it's an older car and for peace of mind. Because if one thing goes, then the next thing's gonna give you some trouble, and then you have to pull it apart again and then do it all over again. I mean, it's a cheaper way to do it. Sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes you can't. Just for me, I just decided, look, stuff it. It's been so long, I may as well just do the whole system. End up having enough money for the parts. I do have that thermostat that goes underneath the expansion tank coming either tomorrow or the next day, and then that's where I'm going to do the rest of it. That's what I have on a towel. So the last thing you want is to be standing up and accidentally drop it, and then you have to order another part because they're plastic and they can break. The other one chipped holes. The parts were really old when I was doing the water pump, and I had to my clutch fan clutch, whatever you want to call it, the one that's on the shroud at the front, that was stuck onto the water pump, so I had to work behind the water pump pulley to try and undo the bolts of it, which was an absolute nightmare. That's why I'm just doing all this with new parts, so it makes things easier for the future. And I had to hit it a little bit to get the pulley loose because it was seized on, and tapping it I had to use a rubber mallet, but because the other one of these was a little bit brittle because it's been in there for a while and they're plastics with the heat of the engine, it chipped just that tiny bit. I was lucky that it only chipped just like this little bit, and the hose clips on in this little groove in that metal clip that I just showed you before on the hose, so it covered it okay, so it didn't actually worry it, but the fact is it's there. So now she's getting a new one. Okie dokie. So I'm going to slide this in, and then I'm going to get the bolts. It goes in this way. The I think it's a 13mm, 13, 10, 10, 10. So I haven't done the bolts yet, but I've just lined it up and set it in there. It will just sit itself in there by the looks of it, and I'm just going to finger tighten the bolts and then go around and tighten them properly. And then I click this on, which is the sensor for the thermostat, and there's a cover for it, which I have, which is that little black cover, which just comes off when you undo that sensor sometimes, the electronic part of the sensor. So this was one of the nuts on the bottom. And if you can see this little sleeve, they've got like some metal parts just to protect the plastic where the nuts go in. This one was so old that it actually came out with the nut, so just be wary of that. I managed to put it in, and then I just got a socket and backed it out, and I got the nut out. Now it's clear, but I wouldn't go into the other one because it was like a metal sleeve on a metal sleeve. It's just because it's an old part basically. But yeah, now good to put it back in, right? These things are cool. At least it wasn't a big hassle. And yeah, I'm going to clean up, cut and polish the headlights with a restoring kit after I've fixed the whole cooling system. But that'll be another video. Another little tip is get a little battery powered ratchet. These things are so handy. It makes things so much quicker and so much easier. It only cost me like 150 bucks, but it's made my life a hell of a lot easier. And these things too, it's a little spotlight. It's got a little magnet on it, so if you lose a bolt, you can extend it and you can pick up the nut, and you can actually bend this part. You can stick it on your car and have a little bit of a working light as well. Boys and their toys, huh? Okay, so the finished product. Marl brand there. Bolted them in. The ones underneath. And what we do now, I've just moved this out of the way. It's actually just gently move it over. And then it sits on the other side of the solenoid like that. And then I'll get the cover first. So I've got my cover there, and then we just clip this on. Should go this way. Do that with my finger. There we go. Make sure you hear the click. Then I'll cover. I don't know exactly what goes on. Let's inspect it a little. Might go this way. Because the clips of the cover go into the back of the clips here. So there's a high part and a low part. Ooh. I'm just going to take that off and figure that out quickly. There we go, so I've just set it over. So the longer side goes on the outside. There's a groove on there, so you can only put this clip on one way, and then this just slides over. So this longer bit goes towards the front of the car, the shorter bit. It's just to protect the wire, I guess. Dust and stuff. Doesn't really pinch it or anything, but yeah, I just put it on there just because it was on there. It's obviously got some sort of purpose. So now I'm going to do the water pump pulley, and we'll do the belt. The water pump pulley is pretty straightforward. To start, I like to actually align these holes so they're vertical, and then it's slightly elongated, so it's shorter here and then slightly longer here. and that way you know the pattern and you can just go by feel. And then finger tighten them, do them up. They're just 10 mils, and then you get a 16 mil on this nut. Pull it towards the right side facing the front of the car, and that lowers the tensioner, and then you can just loop that up through the tensioner here, and that'll go over the water pump pulley. So as I was just talking about the holes being shorter, closer together here and then longer here, so I like to try and align it like that, or you can do it like that, either way. It's just that it was closer to that way when I was turning it. So I just sit it on like that, and then I'll just feed finger tight through the holes diagonally, and then I'll do them up, and then we do the tensioner. So they're on finger tight, so then I just do them up quickly with the battery powered ratchet. You can use a hand ratchet and just hold it, but yeah, I'll use the battery powered, easier. So now I've got a 16mm socket on there, and I don't even crank it, I'm just going to use it for leverage. Pull this thing, pull it up, so you crank it this way and it should pull this down, give me space to loop that over. These belts are brand new, I've replaced them previously, so I'll loop it in there and loop it over there. I can pretty much just get it aligned as it is, and then I just get the tensioner. But what you do, because the nut is there, you want to get this part of the belt, you want to get your nut underneath and then put it over so there's enough room. So as you can see, let it down, there's nothing there. If I pull it this way, it'll loosen it and give it some slack. So if I push it towards the right side of the car facing it, so that's where the airbox would be, that's the air compressor. So if I push it this way, see, it loosens the belt. I can't actually push it the other way. I'm going to do it again and just pop that belt on properly, because I just slid it off just a tiny bit, just showing you guys. So I'm just going to loosen it off. I'm going to need two hands for it, but I'm just going to, yeah, just put it back on, back it off a tiny bit, and just make sure that that's on properly. Make sure the belt's running around everything properly, which it is, except for, yeah, feel around, make sure it's not hanging over an edge. Yeah, that's fine. I just have to slide it onto here properly, so I'm just going to back it off and just push that back on a little bit further onto the tensioner pulley, and then that's the job done for today. Afterwards, it's my fan shroud. I've got a brand new fan from before. I'm going to be gentle and place it down like that always. That's the vent that goes over the top, and this is the piece that goes over the radiator. So I've got my lower radiator hose here, and there's a thermostat in there, and there's a wire that clicks in. So I'm just going to show you how it sort of goes while I can, and I'm going to do a video when I install the other parts anyway. There's the airbox. That's just the airbox, came out in one piece, just the two bolts in the yeah, just that bracket there, and it's just two bolts, two 10mm there and there. That's the dead thermostat. So here's the old radiator and expansion tank. That's the top radiator hose, and that's where your bleeder screw goes. So it would sit like this, and your expansion tank goes in this way, and that hole goes into here like that. I'll show you better. So that hole goes into there like that. So from above, clips in like that. See, they're all just those little flathead screwdriver clips. That goes into the thermostat that we just put in. This side goes into the other side of the thermostat. This sits in here. It's the other thermostat that sits in there. The other side of it's actually stuck in here, which I have to pry out. Or do I? No, it's not in there. Cool. So I have to reuse this bit. I do have another bracket, and the oil cooler, transmission oil cooler, which is here, that just sits and clicks into there. That's the quick release for it. See, it's all tight because it's all old. That's why I'm replacing all these bits, just for peace of mind. Yeah, so the transmission oil cooler goes there. So there's a T25 Torx here, and there's another T25 Torx up here, and that's what holds this bracket on. So I'm going to pull that. I'm going to use those nuts for the new bracket and radiator, and yeah, slide that on, and then I'm just waiting for this thermostat, and then I can put all that together. So I'm going to wipe all this down too, because what happens is that's just water from the leak that I had. So yeah, it was the thermostat, and it was coming through here. Clearly it was the thermostat and the bottom of here where you can see the sludge. So that's just the water buildup. So I'm going to wipe all that stuff down before I reuse that part. These parts, I don't know if that's usable again. The bracket maybe, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to wipe it down anyway, but I need this part because that didn't come with the bracket. So I'll wipe it down just in case, just so I can see if there's any leaks in the future. But that's pretty much how it all goes together. So you got that, this sits on top, bam bam. You've got a little sensor in here, which is your coolant temperature sensor. That sits in between here. You got the transmission oil cooler, which I just showed you, and that plugs into there with a quick release. So that's a quick release there, and you go pop pop. So that opens and closes. It's just a slide thing from the top. So it's just a slide switch, just like the one that I showed you. So if you need to release it, that's the only thing that holds it on. So that's all old and manky. So you can pop that out. I've got 2 new ones of them, so I'm not going to bother with that. And then yeah, that pops on there. Like I said, thermostat's either side of that, and then you've got the other sensor there, and that's pretty much your whole cooling system. So like I said, they're pretty easy and pretty basic. It's just a matter of spending a little bit of time to pull it all apart and then put it back together. So the washer that came on that, so I'll leave that on there. Move that hose to the side. I want to keep all this neat. And shroud's a bit old, crappy, and you got to be really careful with this. I mean, I got a brand new one, so I'm actually going to redo that. So yeah, that basically concludes the video for today of the thermostat and water pump pulley and the belt. And when I get my other little thermostat that I'm waiting on, I'll put all of the rest in, and I'll do another video for that too. Yeah, like I said, like I showed you, it's all pretty basic. So from then, it's just a matter of putting the new hoses on and clicking it all together and reinstalling it. This is essentially a couple of Torx screws. Radiator Torx go here, and there's another one I think here, and they sit on this little plastic shelving that comes out. So they just rest on this little step. That's what the radiator rests on. So you put it together first, put the hose in, click the hose into there. I'll put the expansion tank and the bracket on the radiator, slide that in and bolt that in, and attach the hose. The hose attaches to there. Put the airbox in. Then you put the fan in, you spin it that way to do it on, that way to undo it. Then put a little cover on, and then we bleed it, and job done. I mean, that's literally, I've stopped and talked a lot of crap throughout this whole video, and that's only 20 minutes. So really, that's only a 10-minute job. So peace, good luck. Feel free to message me. Like the video if you like it, subscribe, and yeah, happy driving.